Texas and Georgia have spent the last 2 seasons sitting at the top of the SEC mountain. These are some of the most talented rosters in college football, and 2 teams that have lived in the playoff conversation for what feels like the entire KirbySmart and Steve Sarkisian era. Last year, both programs made deep playoff pushes, and once again, this season the expectation was that they'd meet somewhere in the postseason with major stakes on the line. And even after Texas stumbled early this year, they still worked their way back into the national picture. They clawed their way up the rankings, and once again put themselves in position to make a playoff push. But there was a problem they've run into 3 times in the last 2 seasons. Texas faced Georgia again. Texas lost again, and it wasn't close again. Texas hoped this time would be different. Texas had a chance to make a statement, save their season, and finally get the Georgia monkey off their back. Instead, they got folded completely, and the scoreboard didn't even tell the full story of how painful this loss was. So we need to answer the question that Texas fans are tired of hearing. Why can't Texas beat Georgia? Let's start with the obvious. The final score made this look like a blowout from the opening minutes. But the truth is, this game was much closer than people think. In the third quarter, Texas cut the Georgia lead from 11 to just 4. The momentum had completely shifted. Georgia felt it, the stadium felt it, and Steve Sarkisian definitely felt it. For the first time all game, Georgia knew that it was a precarious spot, and KirbySmart immediately responded by taking the game into his own hands. Facing 4th and 1 on their own side of the field, Georgia went for it, something you usually wouldn't do unless you felt momentum slipping, especially in a tight game where giving the ball up means handing Texas the ball on your own side of the field with a chance to take the lead. But Georgia went for it, converted it, and kept their drive alive. And then came the turning point. Later in that same drive, Georgia had 4th and 5 at the Texas 49-yard line. Realistically, Georgia probably was not going to run a play here. So what does KirbySmart do? He tries to draw Texas off sides. And Texas, in a brutal, totally avoidable, season-deflating mistake, jumps, free first down. A few plays later, Georgia scored a touchdown against a defense that already looked mentally checked out. And from that moment on, Texas was done. Georgia immediately followed it up by rolling the dice again, this time with an onside kick, while already up 11. They recovered it, and after that, the game snowballed. Georgia ran up the score, Texas folded, and all of the hopes of this being their statement moment evaporated instantly. Texas wasn't as far behind Georgia as the scoreboard showed, but once again, Georgia controlled all the crucial moments. Let's be honest. We can debate coaching, quarterback play, scheme, and execution all day long, but in football, most games still come down to the exact same thing. Who wins the trenches? And Texas has been absolutely dominated in the trenches by Georgia 3 straight times. Against Georgia this season, 23 yards rushing. In last year's SEC championship, 31 yards rushing. In the regular season matchup last year, 29 yards rushing. That is 83 total rushing yards across 3 full games. For a program with Texas-level size, Texas-level recruits, and Texas-level athleticism, that's not just bad, that's catastrophic. Most teams hit 83 yards in around the third quarter. Texas did it in 3 entire games. Meanwhile, Georgia hasn't had remotely the same issue. In those same 3 matchups, the Bulldogs averaged 126 rushing yards per game, which is significantly more than what Texas got in all 3 games combined. And here's the thing, you don't need to be an analyst to know what that means. If you blindfolded a fan and show them just the rushing stats from these games, almost anyone could tell you who won. Because if one team can run the ball and the other team can't, the result is usually already decided. Texas has had problems running the ball in most of their major matchups the last 2 seasons. Not just against Georgia, against Florida earlier this year. They ran for only 52 yards. Last year against Ohio State, 58 yards. Even in the Arizona State win, they had just 53 yards. For all the physical talent Texas has, for all the high-rated offensive linemen they've recruited, for all the hype surrounding their skill players, they cannot run the football in big games. And if you can't run the ball, it's really hard to beat Georgia. Now we need to talk about coaching. Steve Sarkisian is a very good offensive coach. He can scheme, he can create matchups, he can design passing concepts that rip apart most defenses. He has made Texas far better than they were before he arrived, but KirbySmart is on a whole nother level when they play against each other. One of the easiest ways to measure coaching performance is by looking at first half scoring versus second half scoring, because halftime adjustments are where you see which staff really knows how to adapt. And over their last 2 competitive matchups, Texas was outscored by 8 points total in the first half, and in the second half they were outscored by 20. And a lot of this comes from Georgia just understanding the moment better. The onsider Georgia got was a perfect example of that. Meanwhile, Texas repeatedly fails to finish drives in which they get past midfield, and Sarkisian, who is an offensive coach, has averaged 14.7 points per game against Georgia. It's safe to say Sarkisian has been losing the chess match. Considering the 2 teams have similar talent most years, Texas is going to need Sarkisian to step up to beat Georgia. Quick timeout. If you want more football breakdowns like this every week, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. This is a new channel and your support means a lot. Back to the video. Now we have to clear something up. There's a narrative going around that ArchManning lost the game for Texas, and that's simply not true. Yes, Texas scored only 10 points. Yes, that looks bad, but Arch actually played well considering the circumstances. He completed 27 of 43 passes for 251 yards, and several of his biggest throws were dropped by receivers in crucial moments. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't the problem. The real story was Gunnar Stockton. His raw numbers don't jump off the page. 229 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception. But those stats are misleading. Stockton completed 82.8% of his passes, and he repeatedly made big throws in pressure moments when Georgia needed them. This isn't anything he hasn't been doing all season though. He's been one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country this season. He's sitting at 2,269 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions, plus 350 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. Those are Heisman level numbers. Some people just haven't realized it yet. For comparison, look at Fernando Mendoza, the guy most people think is the runaway Heisman favorite. Mendoza definitely has better numbers, but not by as much as you might think. He has more total yards, but he also has 2 more interceptions and a far weaker strength of schedule. Stockton has been better than advertised. Arch was better than people think, but Stockton played in a cleaner pocket with a better run game, more reliable receivers, and better second half adjustments. He wasn't just a better quarterback, he was put in the better position. Ohio State got praised for barely escaping Texas in a 14-7 win earlier this season, when ArchManning was playing poorly. Georgia didn't just beat that same Texas team, they punished them by 25 points and made it look relatively easy. This wasn't just any regular win, it was a message. Georgia reminded everyone that they're still the standard, they're still the bullies of the SEC. They're still one of the most complete teams in the country when they put everything together. And if Gunnar Stockton keeps playing like this, Georgia can absolutely win the national championship this year. At the end of the day, Texas isn't losing to Georgia because of one bad break or one unlucky bounce. They're losing because the same weaknesses show up every single time these 2 teams play. Georgia controls the trenches, controls the adjustments, controls the momentum swings, and Texas is close enough to make it interesting, but never close enough to take control. Until they fix their run game, improve their coaching, and start winning the small moments that decide big games, nothing is changing. Georgia still owns Texas.